And the power of Jay's skull. Sorry, my powers are being leached.
G'day, everyone. Welcome to the Power of Jay Skull. Of course, that was my amazing co-host, Jason Smells Like Pine, who has
like pie.
look what he has. He has Leech with him today,
Yay!
guys.
I'm so
Check
happy.
that out. That was a figure that I could not find as a kid, so absolutely gorgeous figure.
All these figures had these fun, gimmicks to them, and Leech was one of the funnest because he has little suckers, and he just wherever you want to stick him.
He was always to me like bathroom friendly. Like when you go have a bath,
yes.
you could stick him up on the tiles.
I will have to try that out after the show.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, this week, guys, we are delving into He-Man. No, it's not a He-Man show. It's Masters of the Universe.
Masters of the Universe, yes.
Revelations.
So
obviously, if you've been watching the show, you knew we were heading towards that this week. And it's a show that I was fully aware of. I knew of its existence because I'm a Kevin Smith fan. So I knew he was writing this and he was developing it. And I just, for some reason, life got in the way. I hadn't gotten around to it. So one of the bonuses of that is that you were able to introduce me and go, all right, we're watching this. Now, I believe last week on the show, Jason, we also said the first 5 episodes.
yeah, 5 episodes. And then I believe I said 5 episodes if you can stop at 5 episodes. And like greedy dogs at a food bowl, we just devoured every single episode. I watched all 10. I was like, "Hey, Jason, have you watched all 10 yet?" "Yeah, well, I'm starting to watch. I'm starting to watch all 10 now." I can't do the accent very well.
No, but look, you were like, I think you almost dared me because you're going like cliffhanger, mate.
Yeah, there's a
Not
cliffhanger.
going.
Yeah, you're gonna want to know what happens next, and yeah.
You just had to. Not that they're saying they tricked us into going to watch part 2.
Oh,
the
no.
story, I was so engaged with what was happening anyway. Even without that cliffhanger, I had to see what was going on.
Absolutely.
And let's start it off. It's like I said, it was they approached Kevin Smith, who apparently was never really into, it was a bit old for He-Man when He-Man came around, and was getting the opportunity to write it because you can say what you like about Kevin Smith. He's a very, very good writer.
He really is.
Baseline. And this shines, especially with the dialogue and how the characters interact. I feel Kevin Smith through this quite a bit, but I also feel the love and care of a lot of other contributors.
Absolutely. There was a lot of love in the show because they embraced Masters of the Universe, both the cool parts and the goofy parts, all at once. And, Kevin Smith was there to put his little dialectical charm to it, his silly little one-liners. I still can't believe that they got Fisto to finally say it. You know what I'm talking about. He finally said it. Oh no, he's gonna die.
Hey, it was appropriate in the moment.
It was because Fisto.
The point of that line is, if you take it any other way it's intended, that's on your perverted mind.
Exactly.
Not on the writers.
And I am of a pure mind, and I was just like, yes.
Yeah,
Fisto.
I'd like him to
go fist them,
punch
Fisto.
him.
Just go get them.
Yeah, go punch him. But honestly, to me with this show, and look, get out of the bag. I really, really, really love this series. As much as I think we hit the pinnacle last week, I'll be honest with you.
Yes.
I didn't love it as much as I loved She-Ra, but damn, it's close.
It is definitely up there because it's all about interpersonal relationships, trauma, and baggage, and both She-Ra and Revelations are kind of hand in hand in that department.
They are, but they're coming at it from different kind of angles, aren't they?
Yes.
Absolutely. But where this show won me straight away. I got to chill because I'm a hairy guy, so there was lots of hair standing up. But as soon as literally I see this, the moment I see that, I'm going,
my gosh. Just
wait a minute.
Memories. Just the memories coming back. Yeah.
Exactly. And I'm like, the smartest, the most obvious thing to do, and they do it well, was using the intro to also highlight the artwork that we grew up with on the boxes.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
The smartest maneuver they could have done. You know?
There's one.
And as we know, some of that artwork is just delicious. I mean, look at this.
It really is.
You know, and that's,
It really is. I was showing this off a while ago, but like the box art on some of these pieces are just,
look at that.
they're gorgeous.
Yes.
I have the Castle Grayskull box over there. I'm gonna frame it because it's just beautiful. People
Well,
are
you
gonna come
mentioned
in like,
Castle
why do you have a box on your wall? Look at it.
It to me, it's like it's only age that stops it from being in a museum, in my opinion.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, that's how much I rate that artwork. And when you
Absolutely.
talk about it, even that was the one thing I noticed throughout the show. As much as they do the titles just like the artwork, the box art, and then they kind of take the filmation style and evolve it times 100. But you know where it's coming from.
Yes.
The one thing they kind of leave, I reckon, the same is Castle Grayskull.
Yes, they don't change the castle. It's classic Castle Grayskull.
And you see, Jason, straight like to reach back to the last one I had. Remember, I moaned about the 2002 one and how they changed Castle Grayskull.
And that's the reason. It was perfect. You don't paint a mustache on the Mona Lisa. You don't tug on Superman's cape. You don't mess with Castle Grayskull. It's fine the way it is. I remember watching the movie and being completely horrified at what they did. I was like, well, the movie's not going to be that great, but at least I get to see Castle Grayskull. What is that?
What is that? So, look, this was a show that was very meticulously, I think, designed from a plot perspective over the 10 episodes. Because there's no fat on the bones in this show either.
There's really not. They go on a straight quest, and then halfway through, they mix it up, and it becomes a... what would you call it? I guess a good versus evil story. And then they switch that up and it becomes a good and evil versus, I don't want to say evil, but a good and evil versus a lost story.
Yes. And like, even though it goes and it veers in those different directions, in no way does it feel forced at all. It feels very organic.
No, it's
honest
like a river.
to the story they're telling.
Yeah, it's like a river. Every now and again it comes across a stone in its path and it just flows in a different direction. And it works. The whole series works, and it works fabulously.
Well, one of the reasons it works, Jason, is the voice cast.
Oh my goodness, yes.
Okay, I'm going to have an issue with one of the voice, and I think we're on the same page.
Okay, yeah, and we love the guy. We love Mark. Mark, I know you're watching. We love you. It's nothing personal.
And we love the performance you were trying to give.
Yes, the performance was great. It was just too Joker-y. I think that's what it was. It was the Joker, and I think that kind of threw me off, which I know I've said in the past, I wish that Skeletor voice actors would not try to emulate Alan Oppenheimer and do their own thing. But the problem with Mark Hamill's performance, again, it's not a terrible performance by any means. It's just, it was too derivative of something else he had done. And I kind of wish he'd gone a little different. Now, don't get me wrong, he had some gut-bustingly great deliveries as Skeletor. I think one of my all-time favorite Skeletor moments is whenever he comes in and he's talking to Prince Adam and he says, "Oh, what are we going to do? Are we going to go in there and just talk to her and say, 'Oh, please, Lenny, don't destroy the universe'?" And Adam just kind of smiles at him and he goes, "Oh God, we are." It's one of my top 10 Skeletor moments. But
that's in the second part. That's actually getting along near the end of it. Yeah.
Yes, but I just remember that part. Everything was so wonderful in it.
Let's recognize some of the great voice talent in this series because they are brought at this time. Chris Wood, who I don't really know much of, he plays
Chris Wood was the only thing I recognize him from, and my daughter and I used to watch the show all the time. He was on Supergirl as Mon-El, as I remember. That's what I recognize him from.
Fair enough. Okay. Well, obviously we mentioned Mark Hamill,
and he voiced Adam or He-Man, or did he do both?
He did both.
Okay.
He did Prince Adam and...
See, now that's something, because both voices sounded very distinct. I wouldn't have known that they were the same voice actor if we hadn't looked him up.
Yeah. No, it's very good. But Sarah Michelle Gellar taking on Teela, I thought did a great job. Sarah Michelle Gellar, who has been doing some voice work of a recent in her career, and certainly was fantastic.
I was a little concerned at first because she does have a very distinct voice, but she played the part with such emotion, and she just committed to it that after a while, I just forgot it was her, and I just accepted her as Tila. And I mean that as a complete compliment, because whenever you have such a distinct voice and you forget that they're voicing, you forget who it is, wow, that's great work.
Every now and again, it would come back to me. Like,
Yes.
I'd be watching it and going, "Oh, I could hear Buffy there."
Yeah.
My favourite voice actor.
Oh,
which
I know
mean
who you're gonna say. Yes.
very clearly throughout this whole chat was Lena Headey,
Yes.
who we know from Game of Thrones, and
Mm-hmm.
there are Connor Chronicles, and she's a fantastic actress. 300. Evil Lynn. Her performance of Evil Lynn. In fact, how they handle Evil Lynn as a character.
She was like
is
silk.
almost my favourite part.
She was like silk during the entire show. It just so
didn't
fluid and dignified, and just, and at the same time damaged. This is what, I don't know, she kind of reminds me, and this could be the Kevin Smith influence here, kind of reminds me of a less Jokerish Harley Quinn.
Yeah.
She is Skeletor's Harley Quinn, and then just like Harley Quinn does with the Joker, Evil Lynn finally gets the spotlight, and she's like, "Look, I'll be a bigger baddie than you will ever be." But it's really not what she wants. It's not what she needs, and yeah,
It's the fact that I think as she's just like a lot of women out there who got themselves into bad relationships.
Mm-hmm.
It has affected her emotionally, changed her emotionally, and she ended up going to make bad life choices because of that. So there's some real world kind of emotion, elements there that I think are very relatable. But if we
Yes.
move along, Diedrich Bader, who that is.
Yes. That he
Famous
was
voice actor.
he was from Drew Carey, and
Of course,
he's
Brave and Bold.
Yes,
and
the voice of one of the voices of Batman. We had two Batman in this.
we did.
show.
I'll
Yes,
get
we
to
did.
them too.
Yes.
He did King Randor and Trapjaw, which I thought was
Yes.
fantastic.
I did not know he did. I recognized him as Randor. I did not realize he was Trapjaw, but Trapjaw really didn't say a whole lot in the show.
Nah, he
so,
didn't
yeah.
do a lot. He was
I think it was like, and then that was it.
yeah, that was
I got really concerned though because I thought they killed off Trapjaw, and Trapjaw is one of my favorites.
he's OG. Like
Yes.
he's been yeah. I thought
There
the
he is.
same
He's-
thing.
He's
that
up there. I don't want to grab him because
Yeah,
I'm afraid
yeah.
the other ones will come down.
I had the
but
same
yeah.
thought, but I quickly went into the wild one. No.
And sure enough, he shows up at the end, and he's just got like stitches where
Yeah,
he got
yeah.
hit in the face with a buzzsaw. And I'm just
But
like,
we had a-
that's so Trapjaw.
That's right. So I'll just run through the list now pretty
Okay.
quickly who else we got, because there's so much amazing voice talent. I think we should.
There really was.
Alicia Silverstone played Queen Milana. Had no idea.
No idea either.
Fantastic.
I thought it was. I don't mean this to sound really bad. I thought that they had cast an elderly actress to play her
Yeah.
because
yeah.
it was so convincing, and it's freaking Batgirl, and I'm just like, hey.
You know her. She has a distinctive way she
Yes.
talks because she's got a problem with her tooth or jaw.
Mhm.
So she talks on the side of her mouth. Couldn't tell. Just couldn't tell.
No, she did a fantastic job.
Stephen Root. Stephen Root's a great actor. I first saw
Oh
him
my
from
gosh.
News Radio.
Yes.
Amazing.
I remember him most from Office Space. I'm like, did you take my stapler?
Yes.
Where's my
yes.
stapler?
The
I'm gonna
the
burn
red
the building
stapler.
down. Yes. Okay. So yes, and
Yeah.
he was
Cringer.
best
Cringer.
ever.
There's a scene which we'll get to that I literally had me in tears. I couldn't
Yes.
believe it. So
Cringer
then-
was my favorite character in this whole series. I have to admit, even over Evil Lynn, because he was just so genuine, and I think they broke the mold with Cringer
Yeah.
because Cringer spent I don't know the amount of time that passed in this series, but he spent years guarding somebody and having to fend for himself. So now our fearless friend has become actually fearless, and I honestly think that somebody who feels fear but acts anyway is the bravest of everyone. So I do believe that Cringer is probably one of the bravest people in this entire series.
Do note that I believe I heard in the interview, and I could be wrong, that apparently this series starts 6 months after the end, in Eternia time, after the end of the Filmation series.
That's what I've heard. Yes,
Yeah.
there were a few continuity issues, but I also heard that this could not be a direct sequel because of rights issues somehow. But yeah, we know it is.
We figured it out.
Yeah.
So then you get into Griffin Newman, who I haven't heard of, does a supply. Oh my god, the second favorite character. If Gringel was your favorite character, actually, I think this is my favorite character, Orko.
Orko was
and we'll get around
justice.
Orko's journey.
Yes. Griffin,
He's
by the
amazing.
way, I think the thing that most people would know him from is he played Arthur in the latest iteration of The Tick.
Okay.
So yes, but yes, Orko was
Fantastic.
outstanding. Orko actually brought a tear to my eye a couple of times in this. series.
Yeah. There's a couple of scenes, but then we got Kevin Michael Richardson as Beastman. We got Kevin Conroy, yes, Batman as Merman. We got Henry Rollins as Triclops. Fantastic.
I did not
David
recognize the
Miscavige is
voice
on
at
calling
first,
it.
and then I thought, oh, that's Henry Rollins. Yeah.
Jason Mewes, yep, Snooch to the Booch. He's at plays Stinkor. And of course we have Alan Oppenheimer playing
Yes.
Mossman.
Yes, he's
Right.
aged out of Skeletor, but I thought he made a terrific Mossman.
Yeah. Justin Long. Didn't know he was the voice of Roboto.
No, that
But
surprised me
again,
as well.
what an amazing character. Tony Todd playing Scareglow.
Tony Todd has got such a great voice. And
Yeah, it's
it was so
unbelievable.
great to see Scareglow actually animated for once, because he was one of my favorite figures back in the day. I never owned one, but my friend did, and I hated him for it. But I just thought it was so cool. Just, you could turn off the lights and there's I'm Scareglow. Ha 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 ha. Look what they did with the Skeletor
They
mode.
made
Ha,
him
ha, ha.
10 times more awesome in this show. They really did.
Absolutely.
And then we're getting down to people like Dennis Haysbert, played the president in 24.
Yes.
He's playing King Grayskull.
Oh, there were so many people who were so angry that they made King Grayskull black. And I was just like,
What?
oh, yes, because King Grayskull...
What?
No! King Grayskull was white! It was in the 2000X story.
In the universe
I'm just like,
when the main dude is purple?
yeah, I'm just like, dude, did
Why?
you not see how BA he looked? Look at him. He was a unit, and I dug it. I thought,
I have zero issue with it.
hey, you know
I
what?
feel like an idiot not ever thinking that we would ever get to meet him.
Yes.
Like, it was such a shock to me. I'm like, I just feel like a moron. Of course there's a grey skull.
Uh-huh.
Of course it was named after.
I will say, you do meet him in the 2000X series at one point. They have a
Okay.
flashback to King Grayskull. A white King
okay.
Grayskull, which is why people got so upset in the first place. I don't
And the
know.
last
People
couple of
get
names
so
I
upset
will-
over the stupidest reasons.
The last few names I'll mention here, because the massive cast list was Method Man.
Who did
Which is
Method
great
Man-
playing
who did-
Clamp.
Oh, he was Clamp
Clamp
Champ.
Champ?
Oh, Justice for Clamp Champ and
Yeah.
Fisto. That's
Ralph
gotta suck.
Garman.
We're not only gonna kill you off, we're going to kill your souls before they get to heaven. How about that?
Ralph Garman, if you ever listened to radio on the west coast of America, he was big on K-Rock or whatever for years. But Ralph Garman's worked with Kevin Smith quite a bit. Very funny man. He played Fisto. He got to say the line, Jason.
Yes, he got to say the line.
Yeah. Kevin Smith himself is voicing, and this is Kevin Smith's humor, where he's always giving himself a bit of stick. He played Goatman and Pig Boy. But
Oh, yeah.
I mean, then we also have D. Bradley Baker. Yes, the D. Bradley Baker.
The man, yes.
Yeah, playing Savage He-Man and Baby Teela. What a range in roles he has there. So he's screaming, then he's a baby. The last one I have to mention, and I don't know if you knew this, but it really made my day when I found out that Danny Trejo played Ram.
I did not recognize the voice at first, but now that you say it, yeah.
Danny Trejo.
Danny
How
Trejo.
incredible is that?
I didn't recognize his voice though. I mean, he got rid of all that graveliness and his usual accent, and he just disappeared into that one or two lines that Ram Man said, and I would have never guessed it was Danny Trejo. Danny Trejo is so great. He is so great.
And just to know that, like you said, the biggest compliment, and the reason I wanted to go for that cast, which we never normally do, is because it was such stellar performances we were getting. I think one of the
Yes.
reasons the show works so much is it's good plot, especially the writing. They everything connects. There's no fat on the bones, as we said. but it's the pure honesty that these performers give to these roles is just amazing. I started to actually try to find a synopsis for this, and it's really hard to come up with the premise, like to get a synopsis for it. But I found one. So I'm just gonna
the synopsis is
yeah, and I didn't even have it written up, so I'm just going to read it off screen. It says Skeletor's final assault on Castle Grayskull causes his own demise while also putting an end to He-Man and seamlessly damaging the source of all magic in existence. They're not even worrying about spoiler alerts here.
no.
After their battle fractured eternity, it's up to Teela to solve the mystery of the missing Sword of Power in a race against time to prevent the end of the universe. Her journey will uncover the secrets of Grayskull at last. Now let's deal with the white elephant in the room. Fanboys were not happy about.
No, they were not. They were not. They did not like that. Oh, they used my least favorite criticism as woke. Anytime that it does not involve a white man, it's woke. So yeah, so this was a Teela centered for at least for the majority of it. It was a Teela centered series, and yeah, that was apparently the wrong thing to do, according to some people. I don't mind giving the spotlight to other masters. I kind of want them to do it next season as well, and I have a character in mind who I think I would like to see next season focus on, but we'll talk about that later.
Here's what I'm going to argue, though. I think they shot the gun too early, because if they had seen how they tied up the story, He-Man is crucial. The story of He-Man and Adam is as crucial as he's ever been. His role was never delineated. Because that story meant that he went away for a while, he's back very significantly in part 2.
Yes.
So I don't see a lessening. The fact that the first time really in this series, we are focusing on characters that are second tier, even third tier, and giving them an opportunity to add value and weight to the universe and this whole endeavor. I just cannot understand why you would think that this is somehow damaging or a problem for this series. Like, I maybe it's just because I'm a little bit older. I just don't understand why people are upset. I just do not.
I think we saw a lot of this whenever the Obi-Wan series started airing on Disney Plus. We saw the same thing. People got on there and were like, "Oh my gosh, Obi-Wan's so weak. Obi-Wan's so weak. This is a terrible show." And then by the 4th or 5th episode, they were loving it because they were so impatient they would not let the story unfold. And I really think that is one of I don't know. I think that this is going to make me sound like such an old man, but I think that things like TikTok and YouTube have lessened our attention span so much to a point that if something does not deliver in the first episode, it's the worst thing ever. And there's just,
God forbid you bury the lead.
There's no patience for anything anymore. Let it play out. Let it tell us the story. We're seeing it with She-Hulk right now. Let them tell the story. Don't come on every week and talk about how it's the worst thing ever, and then 5 weeks later you look like a complete idiot and you're going, "Oh, finally, it's doing what I want it to do."
Yeah. The thing is with Teela, I mean, like, there was a story begging to be told.
There was. There has been a story begging to be told with Teela since, I believe, the 2nd or 3rd episode of the Filmation series.
I would even argue
Teela's quest.
Pilot. Yeah.
Teela's quest.
Exactly. And I think she is handled. And some of the big things, the big shock is literally by the first episode, we are looking at the death of, what we perceive as the death of He-Man and Skeletor.
Yes. And quite honestly, I liked seeing a post-He-Man, post-Skeletor Eternia. I liked seeing how these characters... Yeah, how these characters moved on. My gosh, Triclops and Trapjaw start a cult. Evil-Lyn and the Sorceress are working together. I thought the scenes of what happens after... when Randor and Marlena, or I should just say Randor, because he's an idiot, apparently. When Randor finds out that Adam was He-Man and Marlena knew all along. And I don't know. I was there for all that. I wanted.
That had
I
a
love that
lot
kind
of
of
emotional
epilogue
weight.
stuff. Yes.
When
Yes.
she screams out, "Oh my God, we've lost our son!" Like the pure grief that came out of her, and I was in that moment. And then, as I'm in that moment with them, I'm then watching like Randor and going, "Oh shit, he's just figuring this out."
Yeah.
Like, so you've got these layers that are being built on top of this, because not only has he lost the champion of Eternia, but then he's lost his son, and everyone around Randor has lied to him and hidden it from him.
It's revelations.
It's revelation, and that's
Revelations.
what Teela goes through. And the scene
That-
with Teela turning around and
oh
going,
my
"I
God.
reject all of you."
I have to back up a little bit.
Go on.
When He-Man is destroying or is absorbing the power, and she's looking at him, and all of a sudden she's blinded and she has to do like that, and she turns her head and she sees Battle Cat turn into Cringer, and her eyes just kind of go. At that moment, you can tell she's like, she knows.
Yeah.
And I don't know. To me, that was such a powerful, impactful scene, and there was no dialogue. There was no unnecessary, "Oh my gosh, Battle Cat's turned into Cringer. That must mean," it was nothing. It was all told through facial expressions and gasps, and I just loved it. And yes, whenever she just rejected everybody, because, oh my gosh, Randor's such a... He was a Richard in that first, which I know he was grieving, but to me, Randor's always been just an awful character in every iteration of He-Man, except for the one we haven't seen yet. I will say that. But,
Okay.
But yeah, he's been a pretty awful character in every iteration of He-Man, because he's just like, yes, well, He-Man's a great character, but my son, you suck, and I hate you, and I wish you were never born. I know, Father. And then he winks at the camera. I don't know. I know, Father. Wink.
What? No,
did you just say wink? No. Winkety wink. You did it again. Why did you do that?
That first episode had a couple of big surprises for me. Number one is how they treated Moss Man, who literally gets incinerated by Skeletor, which causes He-Man to freak the hell out at that point, and impale Skeletor, doesn't he?
Yes. You
Very
finally used that sword for what it was meant for.
Oh, yes.
And here's the
Delivered
thing.
very well. Delicious line.
Here's the thing that I enjoyed about that the most, because whenever the figures were introduced, that was what the sword was meant to be. It was meant to be a key into Grayskull, because you had to have both halves, snap them together, boom,
Exactly.
you open up the castle. And
Which they do with very well in the series.
yes,
do
and
with
they
the whole
split the...
conceit.
Whenever the sword split in two, I'm sitting there like Leonardo DiCaprio, like, oh, there it is.
There
Somebody's a fan of the action figures.
Yeah, and well, then you can tell, like, when you open it with the box art, these guys are all in.
Oh, yeah.
But the big surprise, and obviously I didn't know this. Now, I don't know if this has been uncovered in previous iterations of He-Man, and I didn't know, but the fact that Grayskull is actually a real thing. It's an illusion.
Yeah, that kind of surprised me, too.
It's the Hall of Wisdom. And
Yes.
once it's explained why it is the way it is and why they've done that, I'm totally accepting of the whole concept.
It was kind of an
have
evolution
no
of the
issues
of the 2002 series, I thought, and I
Okay.
really liked it. Yes.
Yeah. But yeah, really didn't see that one coming. So, yeah. But yeah, that's the way they ended that episode with and it's a family drama by that point. When we
Yes.
know the loss of Adam and He-Man, that's what we're kind of dealing with. And then we just kick into episode 2, which is, I'm just trying to remind us because there's so much going on. I've seen this one.
Teela and Andra are sent on a quest by a strange old woman to get a family heirloom back, a goblet from Snake Mountain. So they have to go through Trapjaw and Triclops' cult, and they bring it back, and it's, oh, well, tell us why you wanted Evil Lynn. And she's like, how did you know it was me? Ha ha ha. Duh.
Yeah, I thought in the beginning she was starting to get, when they have to go to get it's a glove of Globlar, I think it was.
Oh, yeah, the glove.
Stinkor.
Right. Yeah, they had to
the
get
glove
that
of
from
Globlar,
Stinkor.
but you did
and-
describe the rest of the episode after that very well. Yeah. This is when we get introduced to Evil Lynn, who is my crush in this
Yes,
because
she's
I
amazing.
come to fall in love with her
Yes.
in this show, and it's really it's the brutal honesty. Again, I keep using the word honesty with Lena's performance as like she knows exactly who she is
Yes.
and what her place is. And she knows she's not blinded by this. She doesn't think she's the good guy. This is the thing. Like a lot of villains, like Skeletor actually thinks he's the good guy. He's the hero of this. She does not. She's very self-aware of who she is, the damage she's done, and the burden that she must carry. So, and it's a very complex character because she's in an abusive relationship, yet she is intellectual enough and fully aware that she is, yet she still remains. And I found that a very interesting thing. You know?
Yes.
She's just not a blindly bad guy for no reason.
Yes, and I completely agree. I think that she was just amazing. Lena Headey was just great as Evelyn. I know we've said that several times, but she truly was.
She deserves it.
She's like top tier Evelyn. That was one thing about the original series that I did not like was Evelyn's voice, because she always talked like this all the time, like she just ate a pack of cigarettes. And I know it was
like
the
one of the
same,
Golden Girls.
yeah, I know it was the same voice actress who gave us, you know, the Sorceress and Tila. So, you know, there's only so much you can do with a human voice unless you're Mel Blanc. But yeah, it's just amazing performance. Also, got to give it up for Susan Eisenberg, you know, Wonder Woman from Justice League as the Sorceress, because I thought that she was just unflappable during the entire series. Just she never really broke once. She was just this serene, you know.
She has a really strong part to play in that second half.
Yes, she does. And
there's a beautiful scene with her and Tila. Like,
yes. And
that just plays that wonderful.
Speaking of revelations, there was another revelation in this series that took me by surprise. It was whenever they were going to tell Tila that, you know, Tila, there's something we have to tell you. Yes, Sorceress is my mother. What? I've always known. I've kind of always known. Yeah, I'm pretty sure she is. Just like, that's Tila. She, you know, makes
she's
sense.
not silly. She kind of
she's with it. She's hip. She's got it.
Yeah. But
I do have to say though, whenever there were some character deaths in this one, and I gotta say that I think the sorceress death probably hit me the hardest, because she was always that unflappable constant in the old series. Seemed like she was going to be the unflappable constant in this series, and then all of a sudden Skeletor just shish kebabs her right there, and you're just like, oh no.
It's one thing to kill off a few side villains. It's another thing to kill off Yoda, basically.
That exactly. The Sorceress is He-Man's Yoda.
Exactly. As we talked about Evil Lyn, and just go straight to the next character, is one of the things I think made her performance strong was also this beautiful relationship she developed with Orko.
Yes.
And Orko as a character, we have to address what is one of the most heart-wrenching storylines for me as a viewer to watch. And if you give me a second to explain, we see Orko.
In other words, don't interrupt me, Jason.
Please, for this
don't
one,
interrupt me. Okay, I will.
He has at the beginning of this show, he is very down on himself. He feels worthless. He feels tired. He feels like he's a laughing stock. And as he's describing that, as we're getting him to see early in this series that he's a broken being in many, many ways, I started to feel responsibility for it as a viewer, because I, as a kid, pointed and laughed at that character going, you're a joke.
Mm-hmm.
I, in my own way, contributed to him. I felt him feeling like the way he feels. That he is a character without substance, that he has really no meaning, and that's what he's feeling. That really played on me quite a lot. And when you're talking about emotion, and there's a couple of scenes that got me teary, there are a few times, like you said with Orko, that are just heart-wrenching. And then to see him become what he becomes before we see his ultimate demise, which is just give me a box of tissues, get me the hell out of here when they get rid of him.
I know.
And to see him come back was even equally. Give me more tissues because I'm now feeling that joy and happiness. But yeah, there's my rant. Orko, I did not expect for me to take responsibility and ownership over that character as much as I did as I watched it.
It really was quite extraordinary. I really enjoyed what they did with Orko as well. That's one thing I gotta say about Kevin Smith is that he takes characters and just makes them three-dimensional people. You know, because Orko he was a one-note joke in the original series. I love Orko. I have a little Orko collection over there. I have just about every Orko that's ever been made. And, you know, I don't think that Orko's ever been better written than he was in this series. And I kind of think he never will be again. And that's kind of sad, honestly, because Kevin Smith or whoever wrote that episode has respect for Orko as a being and brought a voice to him that, you know, made him human. I know he's not human, he's a Trollan, but made him human.
Elevated his...
Yes.
Elevated him as a character. Invariably changed that character forever. Exactly. I think you've just coined it, Jason. How do we go back?
We can't.
You can have your jokes, but you know now, every person out there, if he does make silly like magic tricks that don't work, we all know that's even better now because we know behind him is a powerful being that knows exactly what he is doing.
Yes.
Everyone has to respect Orko now. You just have to.
That
what
is
he
one of
does
the things,
in this series.
That is one of the things I'm truly looking forward to the next season, to see what happens with Sorcerer Supreme Orko. Because, I mean,
that's what he is.
He was basically like a one-man wrecking crew at the end, and I'm just like, Orko.
Oh, the redesign too.
Oh, the redesign was beautiful. Orko beating up on Scareglow. That's just outstanding. And it was believable as well.
By that point, I'm like, Scareglow, he's just toying with you at this point.
Yes.
Do you know?
Yes.
But it's that scene where he's holding back, or Orko, initially holding back, he sacrifices himself with those rings. As he pushes the rings, like 3 rings, I think, eventually to try to stop him. And man, the fact that moment where he turns to Teela, isn't it? He's turning to Teela, or was he turning to Evil Lyn?
I honestly can't remember.
But it's that moment where you see Orko, which is basically just 2 eyes.
Mm-hmm.
You see him accepting his fate. And I'm like, how did you do that in animation? But you did it.
There are so many of those quiet moments in this series that are just like God, I just keep saying so well written, but there's no words. There's no words, it's just all expression. And this series does that so well.
What were your thoughts on Duncan, Jason?
I think Duncan was great. I can't remember the actor's name. I want to say it's Cunningham.
Remember who played him.
He was in Lord of the Rings, as I remember. Liam Cunningham.
Oh, yes. Yeah,
I honestly, there were a couple of times I thought it was Liam Neeson who was voicing. Yeah, I thought it was Liam Neeson who was voicing Duncan there for a while.
Seaworth.
Yeah.
Davos Seaworth, wow.
Yeah, it was just so... I've always loved Man-at-Arms. I've always loved that he's like a father figure to everybody. And to see him just broken and rejected and yet still fighting was wonderful. Wonderful. They did... I don't think that there's a single character, aside from Fisto and Clamp Champ, that they did not do justice to.
Yeah. I mean, like, which is a feat on its own. I mean, come on, you've got 10 episodes, right? You've got, a cast of dozens and dozens of characters that are well loved. I mean, there was a character, one of my favorite characters, which was, I think, perfectly brought to life in the 2002 version of Master Universe, wasn't even in this series. Stratos.
Oh, he was there. He showed up. He was a cameo there. It was
very
It was a very, very brief cameo.
I did not get Sean Connery to come back.
No, there was no Sean Connery.
Here's the problem with that too. I cannot accept any other voice than that voice for that character now.
They need to bring Daryl Hammond in to do Stratos' voice.
Yes.
He-Man, what do you call it when an avian flies towards the sun? I don't know, but your mother's a whore. Ho, 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 ho. Just flies off into the sunset.
Now,
sitting there going, I really hate that man.
Can we talk about the cult element in this show, which I'm just so delighted with obviously, with the void of Skeletor going. There's a power vacuum, right?
Yes.
Especially on the evil side. And it's interesting to see how that manifests when there's a power vacuum. And the way they've done it here, I was just so delighted and shocked at how bold it was to do it. But literally, it turns into a cult.
Yes.
So you don't have a leader. So they've decided that we're now being introduced to Triclops, who is the David Miscarriage of this. So if I go missing, by the way, it's a Scientology reference. Yeah,
of course.
I'll be like his wife just gone. It was great. It was really great to see this cult being formed to what we think is a false idol.
Yes.
What we think is a false idol. We'll get into the reveal of that. But
still a false idol, but just a little bit more than a statue.
A little bit more than that. Yeah, a little bit more than that.
Yes, I thought it was an interesting parallel, to be honest, because in a sense, the first half of Revelations, or the first couple of episodes of Revelations, is about the destruction of a family. You know, the Masters basically break up because their patriarch has gone, and the evil Masters do the same thing, and they all kind of go their separate ways because we see Evil Lynn's off on her own, Stinkor's off on his own, the only way that the evil Masters could even keep like just a few of them together was by forming a cult, which, if you're ever in a cult, usually they call it a family.
Yeah.
So
That's so
yeah.
true.
So yeah, I thought that was a very interesting choice. And yes, I did see some Scientology parallels there.
Yeah. It was pretty funny.
Yes.
Now, one of the scenes I think happened in this first kind of chunk too is a scene that I really got I think I put up in the chat about it, was this moment here with Teela and Cringer, when Teela, who is obviously, like every hero on a hero's journey, she rejects the whole concept of being involved.
Yes, rightfully so, because she was
Rightfully
wrong.
so.
Yeah, you always understand why. You always understand why. That's what I liked about that.
And then out of nowhere, this beautifully, eloquently, heartfelt speech comes from Cringer, who basically makes Teela understand that she hasn't been abandoned. She's been entrusted. And He-Man, he did what he did because he believed that she would be here to protect. And it's a powerfully done scene. And probably the best moment of Cringer I had ever seen up to that point.
Stephen Root
Right
is
there in that
just,
scene.
he is such an underappreciated actor.
Beautiful. It was beautifully
Yes.
written and beautifully performed by Stephen Root.
I will say the character that I want to see the focus of next season is Cringer. I want to see I want to see a Cringer-centered season.
Yeah. Because they've done with Orko,
yeah.
they've taken this character and they've elevated him to a higher plateau.
Yes.
So there's so much there.
And to me, I don't know, they've kind of aged him a little bit too. You know, to me, he's like an old cat who's entering the twilight years of his life. You know, where does that leave him? Where does that leave He-Man?
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
It's more, and you know, I don't know. This is just me pontificating what I would like to see. If they don't do it, I'm not going to throw a fit and go, "This is not what I wanted to see. It's not. It's too woke. I don't want to do that." It's just, I think that Cringer has quite often been a neglected character. At least to this point. Yeah. And I love what they did with him in this series. I like what they do with him in the next series, where they elevate him to, you know, kind of a wiser character, where he's not just...
Oh, right, and this is you're referring to the CGI He-Man.
Yes. He's more of a mentor figure in the next one. You can almost call him a surrogate dad to Adam at one point. And I like this. Again, just like with Orko, we can't go back from here. I want to see more of sophisticated Cringer.
Yeah. Now, I think I may have forgotten because it's familiar, but it really rang true in this episode about Roboto. Roboto, which is basically a robot built to have all the emotional standing and all the feeling and all the knowledge that Man of Arms has, correct?
Yes.
And which is a pretty simple conceit. I remember having the figure like we all did. You know,
I have
pretty
the
simple figure.
Yes. He had the gears on
Not
the inside.
Not my wildest dreams. I thought they would give this figure such a important part to play in this second act of the series.
Yes.
He does play a very important role. And again, great writing, because this is how you handle a robot.
Absolutely.
Like, it's like, Kevin Smith, why didn't you ever write? The biggest shame in the world is that you never got to write for Data, the character.
I know.
Because clearly you know how to write for
Roboto's final scene ran circles around Data's final scene in Nemesis in every single way.
In every single way. So absolutely.
Just the whole conceit of, I never thought that I would feel fear at the end. I'm so sorry. No, don't you understand? I feel. It's just like,
at one point when I'm watching this series, I'm going, this show could be retitled Teela's Bogus Journey, because essentially, in its very basis, we're going to heaven and hell here.
Yes,
we go to heaven and hell, which is again,
wasn't it not concept. Wonderful to see that Eternia playset made it to a real location? Yeah. I love that so much, and then they blew it up.
Yeah, they blew it up. But to go to heaven and hell, which was wonderfully done, and a concept I hadn't even thought of when you said, because it's so fantastical that, you know, it takes smart people to go, well, if this was real, they are religious, they would have a heaven and hell, and they are religious because we've got a cast of Grayskull, we've got a sorcerer. Magic is real. Absolutely makes sense, and that's the second act of this show, isn't it? Really, that journey from heaven to hell. Really didn't like heaven much. Heaven didn't turn me on as a location. I felt when I was watching, it's like, I don't think I'd want to stay there.
No, it's too much exercise.
Too barbaric for me. Yeah.
So, although it was great to finally see Hero. Because Hero was a proposed He-Man spinoff that would have shown Prince Adam become King Adam, and he marries Teela, and they have a son, and the son becomes the new protector of Grayskull, and he's called Hero. Yeah.
Hero.
And
he was great. I don't actually have a picture of him either, but he looked really good as well.
Yeah, and Wondar, finally seeing Wondar also.
Yes. But that whole scene in heaven really did not agree with the way they were teasing Adam.
No, it didn't seem like a paradise to me. No.
Yeah, this isn't a paradise where you're getting called a flea and you're being dismissed, and you turn around and you say he is the only hero who's ever chosen his weakest self form to be in heaven, should automatically earn the respect of every other hero in heaven.
Yes.
Like, it's crazy, you know?
I do have to say, I really liked how they said that He-Man always turned himself back into Adam because he didn't want to keep the power. He would only have the power for a little bit whenever he said, I have the power, but he wanted to share it with everybody.
I know, right?
And they kept that theme all the way through, because as soon as that big battle at the end was over with, what did He-Man do? He let the power return. He didn't want to keep it. He is Adam. I think that's the first thing he says in every episode. I am Adam. He doesn't say, I am He-Man, I am Adam.
That's right. If you remember in the first episode of the show, I had this really stupid theory, which I thought was funny. That Adam was like Kill Bill Volume 2 with Superman speech. You know, the whole concept that Clark Kent is Superman's impression of what he thinks humanity is. And I would like to, if I could go back and edit that, what I said out.
You should be ashamed of yourself, yeah.
I am ashamed of myself. It was a joke. A, it fell flat. And secondly, it's very untrue.
Yes.
This guy is a pure, not on a surface level, not on a bland, vanilla, almost unintelligent level. This is a very emotionally intelligent Adam.
Yes.
And it creates even more depth with He-Man now. More depth. Because
absolutely.
We know there's not just a, you know, what can I say? You know, remember seeing that movie Free Guy with the really dumb Ryan Reynolds at the end?
Yes.
You know, we don't have that version of He-Man. We have this very smart. We do get a savage He-Man, though.
The savage He-Man was so cool.
Oh, man, I could see the people at Marvel going, get me a lawyer. Because, I mean, we get a Hulk version of Savage He-Man, don't we?
I loved that scene, though, whenever he says, I've always wondered what would happen if I said the words without the sword. and he says it, and that little spark appears between his fingers, and Skeletor just goes, "No."
Yeah, well, I was like, hell yes, I want to know, because I
And
haven't
then
even thought
poof,
about
it's like, what the hell is that?
that. Pure rage.
There were so many twists in this series. I mean, honestly, I think after watching the whole thing twice,
Yeah.
and now looking back, there really were a boatload of twists in this. Almost every episode, there was something that kind of made you go, "What?"
You know, subversion of expectations sometimes a bit of a negative. You know, people
Yes.
like Ryan Johnson get hit with that from a negative perspective, and other creators. This subverts expectations in such a joyful, unexpected way.
Yes, I like.
And never do I feel like they've switched it up just because they can.
Yes,
It serves a purpose.
Matt Stone and Trey Parker, the creators of South Park, they coined a writing method called but then. And I kind of have a feeling that they adopted that for this series, because it's not this happened and then this happened and then this happened. It's this happened, but then this happened.
It's
but then this
consequence-driven.
happened. Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a consequence-driven series, and I respect that, because nothing happens just for a reason. Now, I do think Orko staying at the end was a bit of, we can't kill Orko twice. They will come for our
It feel
heads.
a bit kind
And it-
of like,
yeah.
oh no, you don't.
Oh, no, you don't. Wait a second. What do you mean, oh, no, you don't? That's not how it works. That's not how any of this
Yes.
works, Evil Lyn.
Yeah,
Maybe if
yeah.
Evil Lyn had switched places with him, I would have accepted that. But then
Yeah,
again, we
her-
wouldn't have gotten that scene with her at the end where, she leaves her magic behind and, the world is wide open. That was great. I like that.
Yeah. Well, she goes on a hell of a nihilistic journey.
She does. It's
She
basically,
really goes to a dark corner.
She really does, and I gotta admit, we spoke about this online, and I really have to watch what I say here, because I am a school teacher. But at one point, you said something about, I bet that she is dynamite in the sack.
Okay,
And
I can say,
and-
let me
yeah,
say
and
it so
I
you
said-
don't, all right?
Okay.
Let me say you don't. So I basically turned around and going, I got a massive crush on Evelyn, and I bet you she is a demon in the sack.
Yes.
Like, that was my perverted thought. And
Well,
as a
my
teacher-
response was, well, Skeletor had the power of a god, and he gave it up for what he thought was going to be a quickie. So it's got to be true. It's like,
did mention that. And that is true.
all
because he
phenomenal power, that's a Skeletor, 2 minutes. All phenomenal power, 1 minute and 30 seconds. Yeah.
Actually, you kind of remind me, Jason. There's another reason that was brought up about how one of the weaknesses of Skeletor, Evil Lyn, when there was a great back and forth between her and Skeletor, she kind of mentioned him. You've never powered down once.
He did not want to give
and
the
he
power
did
back
not.
up. No.
No, he would never
No.
wanted to kind of power down.
Yes.
And she said it was a weakness, which she then obviously
Took
tried to
advantage of. Yeah.
exploit. So, but I mean, because and that version of Skeletor, great looking version of Skeletor.
Oh,
right?
Skelegod was
Really
great,
like that.
yeah.
I love that. I love how he shows himself to Eternia. Like, I'm here. But we do
I
get
have
a
the power.
but then shockingly enough, almost an episode later, we get the same exact scene. But instead of Skeletor there, we've got Evil Lyn.
Yes.
Who I'm surprised they took it that far that she became what's Dark Lyn they call her now, don't they? They call her Dark.
I think so, yeah. I want
She's
the action
just-
figure when it comes out.
She just it just goes whole in, and again I justify it by her just really being broken emotionally and not knowing what to do. I think this wasn't I think Skeletor, it's always a plan to take over.
Yeah.
This was just circumstance she found herself in.
She just saw
There wasn't
the
a longer
futility of
term
it all,
plan
yeah.
around this.
I think that the series really showed the difference in between the Dark Masters and the Masters of the Universe, in that, Evil Lyn just gives Skeletor a dressing down about, if it was not for He-Man, you would be nothing. So basically, even though I compared him to the Joker, without Batman, the Joker is nothing. Without,
Definitely.
He-Man, Skeletor is nothing. You have no plan. This has always just been your plan, is just, I'm going to get the power, and then what? What are you going to do next? You don't know.
Yeah.
And I think that she just sees the ridiculousness of it all at one point.
Yeah.
And it took Tila to show her that, yeah, it's ridiculous, it's meaningless, but it's also magic.
Yeah.
The fact that we get to live our finite lives in this weird, stupid, random universe with no purpose and no reason, but the fact that we live our lives at all, and that we can live and we can love and we can talk about stupid cartoons on the internet, that is magic, and that is worth living for.
Exactly. And just wonderfully. I don't know what the critical response to this show is.
I believe it was positive.
Because surely, I mean, if this is, and I will investigate a little bit further, because this is some of the best animated, American-made animation, like, storytelling I've seen in a while.
It was 92% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Oh, so it should be. Yeah.
Yes.
So it should be. It's that quality, right?
Yes,
so
it was
we're not just
high
fanboys drinking the elixir, are we? Like,
no, we're not.
It's clearly even people from the outside are seeing the value of this show.
There
and
are
it wasn't
dude bros out there just going,
yeah.
It had girls in it.
Has it been confirmed? There's a rumor that season 2 is coming.
Season 2 is coming. It's called Masters of the Universe Revolutions.
Ooh.
So, and I can only assume that a certain shape-shifting, pig-nosed guy is on his way.
Right, yeah.
And
certainly.
I'm kind of hoping, fingers crossed, a couple of years ago, they talked about the possibility of doing a She-Ra crossover. And the people who made the She-Ra cartoon said we would be all for it, as long as if they were in Etheria, it would have to be in our style, and if we were on Eternia, it would have to be on their style.
Well, that works for me. I think that should work around.
Yeah, I just think that would be just the most incredible thing. Even if it was just for one episode, have that happen.
Like, and I don't know, because I have to go back and finish watching She-Ra as part of the show. I don't know how much more reference they have to Castle Grayskull.
They have very little. I mean, just like very scant.
Yeah. So I think She-Ra probably at some point they're going to have to. Well, it's the series is done, isn't it? It's done and done.
It's done. But I want to see. I want to see She-Ra come home. I want to see She-Ra see where she came from, even if it is the Revelations timeline. I want to see her meet He-Man and say, "Hey, you're my brother. This is where I came from. This is Catra. She's my friend." Meow.
But the title of the show, it's only in post after you finish watching the series. Actually, the title was so perfect.
Yes,
because it is a complete series of revelations every episode.
I honestly thought that they were using revelations in a biblical sense, like this is the end.
Oh yeah,
but it was like the literal sense. These are secrets being revealed. Fabulous secrets will be revealed to you.
You know what? I think we could go on for another hour.
We really could. I mean, it's just there's so much to this series. And it's so unnecessarily maligned. I just love it so much.
Well, I'll tell you, one of the beautiful things about doing the show with you, Jason, is I'm getting to visit this stuff with all that baggage being, maybe I'm aware of it in the corner of my brain, but I was never involved in it. So I'm not, any intelligent person isn't, but I'm certainly not influenced or negatively impacted by what anyone else thinks. I've been able to go into every one of these shows just wide-eyed and either accepting of it or not accepting of it.
Love what you love. That's what it is. Love what you love.
Doesn't matter. Like at the end of the day, and I think we are coming to an era, to be really honest with you, in the next 10 years, the time of the trolls is going to come to an end. There is going to be. It
has got to. Yeah,
I honestly. To be where the mass populace turn very hard towards them, and trollers will find themselves cancelled.
I truly hope so, because a lot of them are just absolutely vile.
A lot of it has to do with young male anger.
Yes.
That's what it has to do with.
I want to say something to all of you who are listening. Having a woman or a minority character does not mean that you as a person are becoming less relevant, because that's all it is. It is just fear that you as a white male, a white straight male, are becoming less relevant. You are not. The only thing that makes you less relevant is this chicanery that you pull on the internet because no one's going to listen to you.
Exactly.
That's
100%. Couldn't have been said any
Yes.
better.
In
Absolutely.
today's
And
episode, we learned that woke is not a word you should you should throw
Until
around.
next time.
Until next time.
There we go.
All right.
No,
We-
look, I do want to kind of. Oh, you got something to say? Go.
No, I'm sorry. I'm just
No,
kind
you're
of.
kinda-
I'm just
But
doing
I
the
think we're
little
going to
Parkinson
tie it
shakes,
up
I guess.
here, Jace, because we've been going an hour.
We have.
There's so much more. The fact of the matter is, it means short so far. We still have one more series next week to get through.
Yes.
But-
And then one surprise after that.
And then a surprise after that. Fantastic. But essentially, these last two series in the last 5 years that they produced for He-Man are really, we're really hitting the heights here, eh?
Yes, we are.
You got She-Ra and this as a back-to-back viewing as a fan of Master of the Universe. You must be like, how can you not be joyous about what they've delivered to us? So
I guess if
clearly-
you're just a completely miserable person, I guess. I don't
yeah,
know.
I guess. A lot of fun to be had. Excellent
Yes.
writing, excellent performances.
Yes. Let's talk. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Just go. No, I'm really disappointed because every other show that we've done, Jason, I can go back and see the rest of the series. I can't with this. I have to wait like everyone else now.
There's a new series coming, though. Just be patient. You are now with us mere mortals. But let's talk a little bit about where we're going next. Because there's another He-Man series. And strangely enough, this one ran concurrent with Revelations. Now, this new one is a straight-up reimagining of the entire package. They keep He-Man, they keep Man-at-Arms, they keep Ram Man, and they keep Cringer, and they keep Tila. But everything is different now.
What about the villains?
The villains? You got Skeletor, you got Evil Lyn, you got Trapjaw,
Okay, so the core,
and Beastman.
Okay, so the core figures are there.
The core figures are there, and other ones show up in smaller roles. You know, at one point you get Stratos. Stratos shows up, and Merman shows up at one point, voiced by George Takei, as a matter of fact.
Oh my!
Oh my, and he does say "oh my" at one point. But it's honestly, and I know this is kind of going off track. It's honestly one of the most terrifying versions of Merman they've ever made because he's not really a bad guy this time around. He is a jilted good guy. And he's very bitter, and he wants basically payment. So I helped protect the throne, and they left me behind. You know, one of those kind of things.
Is he kind of like, I'm thinking now, is he kind of like that French guy from The Matrix? It's like,
Oh, the Merovingian? No, he's not like the Merovingian. But he doesn't show up
Merman's
until like
not going to give this lady a bit of chocolate cake.
No, it's nothing like that. Although he could just use George Takei's voice and talk to her for about 30 seconds. It would have the same, it has the same effect on her as it does everybody. But he doesn't show up until the third season. I honestly, by the time he showed up, I kind of forgot Merman was a thing.
How many seasons is this show?
So far, three seasons, but
Okay,
very
well,
short seasons.
Oh, what do you mean, like 6 episodes or something like that?
I think 8 or 10. I can't remember. I mean, it's a standard Netflix thing, but this series does track younger. It does track towards attracting, young boys, and I do want to say young girls because there's a lot of girl power in this one. They do gender swap a couple of characters very creatively. The way that they do.
Yeah, sorry. By the looks of it here, also they were working with or in parallel with Revelations.
Yes, they were, and
There's a lot of voice casts.
Yes. But yes, it's kind of like Princesses of Power versus She-Ra. Princesses of Power was She-Ra, but they flipped the script on a lot of things. He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, the new series, does that as well. At first, I did not like it whenever I first started watching it. And about three episodes in, I kind of had the revelation of, well, this series was not made for me. This was not made for a longtime fan of He-Man. This was made for kids to bring them into the universe as well. Because, if you don't, the universe stagnates and you don't get any new blood into it. So they're like, hey, we need to bring in new fans. It's very smart.
It does come off, if you think of it now, it's actually a pretty smart corporate strategy.
It really
They've
is.
clearly met in the 2010s at some point, right? We need to get this series back relevance. We need to capture A, we need to recapture our existing He-Man fans, get them back interest again. B, we need to get our female fans back. Let's redo She-Ra. And then we need to bring in new stock, as you're saying.
Yes.
So
Yes.
these three series is clearly a corporate strategy, which I'm not saying negative. I
Oh,
think
no.
Okay.
Star Trek is currently doing the same thing with Star Trek Prodigy. They're bringing in the younger audience because I've never seen so many elementary kids come up to me and say, "Hey, have you been watching this thing called Star Trek? It's this new thing." And I'm like, "Is it a new thing? Tell me about it." I've
You play
never
along,
heard of
don't
it.
you? Just come into
Ships
our
in space? Really? But yes, He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, it is going to... I don't want to say rub you the wrong way, but it's definitely for, the 10-year-old crowd. But
But
I
see,
will
you
say...
said this about She-Ra.
Yes, but I will say that after a while, the stories do get more sophisticated because I watched the season 3 finale not too long ago, and it was way better than what I was expecting it to be. And they
You
have
see some of this voice cast. Wow.
Yes, they
Tom
have
Kenny's
a...
playing Orko.
You say what?
Tom Kenny plays Orko.
Yes, SpongeBob. SpongeBob is playing Orko. And I will say, since you brought up Orko, Orko's reimagining is one of the most clever things I've ever seen.
Right,
Because
okay.
Orko is not Orko. And I'm just going to leave it at that. Orko is not Orko.
Well, I would definitely... They got Stephen Fry to play Manny Faces.
Yes, and Manny Faces
Stephen
is
Fry.
Stephen Fry playing Manny Faces. Manny Faces reimagining in this. He's a king, and he's at first you're like, oh, this is not this is just some street hustler. Oh no, he's got himself his own little kingdom.
I think I found some spoilers here. Because as I mentioned that Tom Kenny was Orko, Wallace Shawn also plays
Yes.
Orko the Great. And Kevin Conroy is Hordak.
Yes, and that was a major spoiler for season 3.
Oh, okay, there you go. And Kevin Smith's playing Triclops, so he's the cult leader now.
Yes.
So, no, interesting. I'm just having a quick look here. Look, I will absolutely go in my eyes wide open, as I have
Yes.
with every series, Jason, to go, it does help quite a lot for you to inform me that it is aimed for a younger crowd.
Yes.
Because right now, I've just gone through a journey of feeling like I've watched a show that was made to service my fandom,
Yes.
my imagining of what it could be. And I think very much so Revelations as a whole, although I do think She-Ra's better overall.
I agree.
I think this very much satisfied the young boy in me.
Yes.
Fell in love with He-Man back in the early 80s.
Yes, it's the Filmation series, just more violent and more sophisticated.
It just feels like it's been nurtured and loved and cared for and respected for this whole process of them developing this series. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, it's wonderful. But I will go into this knowing that, yeah, if you're trying to bring in, how do you do that in this day and age? That's a fascinating question.
You
How do you
merge
bring young people in to this universe?
He-Man with aspects of Yu-Gi-Oh and Pokemon, basically, and Shazam. 'Cause
Okay,
you can
that's an
you can tell
interesting
that-
mix
yes.
you're throwing at me.
Absolutely, and it will make sense as it goes along. And I will also say, best character of the show, Cringer. Best character of the
Really?
show. Yes,
David Hay.
Yes,
David
as I
Hay.
said, he's more of he's not a coward this time around. This time around, he is actually very brave, but he's very broken as well, and he's kind of settled into a mentor father role for Adam because Cringer raises Adam.
Yeah. Wow.
So it's very cool how they do all this.
I think I'm going to have to turn this page off because
Yes, don't
The
spoil
names-
yourself too much.
yeah, there seems to be some names here that have got me kind of thinking. But what the beauty is because today, literally today, once we finish filming the show, I will probably do what I always do and dive straight into it. So it won't be long
Absolutely,
before I'll
I'm
be
going to do it
watching
as well. Yeah,
So really to tie it up, that was an amazing show, Jason. Like, yeah, geez, how lucky is it, that we live in a world right now where this is the type
yeah. 10-year-old me is like squealing in delight right now. I just
Wonderful.
love being alive right now. It's just this. explosion of this niche science fiction and fantasy that I grew up loving. You know, Star Trek has got like a bajillion spin-offs right now.
Yeah.
There's all these wonderful He-Man properties and toys out again, and I just love it all.
Look,
and
everything,
I
isn't
could
it?
not be
Like,
happier.
as a kid that loved Star Wars, Star Trek,
Yes.
Marvel, and He-Man, this is just literally this is our era. Like, we are getting everything we
Absolutely.
need.
This is the stuff that we love is cool again.
Yeah.
It was never really cool to begin with, but it's
We
still...
may not be cool, but that is now.
Speak for yourself, Granddad. I'm the coolest person I know. Granted, I don't have any friends, but I am the coolest person I know.
Well, mate, on that note, we shall leave it. Thank you so much. You really are the captain in this journey because you are steering me into the next direction.
I am
I'm really
enjoying it
excited.
so... I'm enjoying it so much, my chudich.
I love it. So yeah, next week, guys, He-Man and Master of the Universe, the 2021 Netflix series. We will see our co-host Jason Smells Like Pine and his unbelievably cool figure Leech. You know, so meanwhile, he'll probably be complaining if we see him very pale next time, Jason. It's because he's left the Leech on too long and has lost too much blood. But hopefully that's not the case. And we'll see him next week. We'll see the rest of you guys on the show. Jason, can you do it? And we're out of here.
By the power of J-Skull!